Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. In Revenge of the Sith, Obi-Wan is sent to Utapau to fight General Grievous. This major fight against the droid army keeps Kenobi off Coruscant when Order 66 happens, all deliberate moves by Palpatine to ensure that Anakin can sack the Jedi Temple with ease. But what if Obi-Wan kills Grievous in the first few seconds of their fight and gets in his starship, returning to Coruscant and arriving at the Jedi Temple? Meanwhile, Windu and the others go to Palpatine's office and are killed. Anakin turns to the dark side and leads the 501st as Palpatine executes Order 66. That's the setup, and now the timeline is the same, except Obi-Wan is at the temple. Obi-Wan could hear the screams of his brothers and sisters as they were being gunned down around him. The temple smelled of burnt walls and robes. The charred stains on the walls created from blaster fire displayed the agony of warfare. Kenobi turned around to see a female Jedi running for her life. Her screams rose above the sound of blaster fire. Obi-Wan ignited his sapphire lightsaber so that he could help her. But as soon as his sapphire blade was lit, her screams were silenced by the ravaging 501st Legion. Obi-Wan had to quit watching and begin engaging in combat. If he wished to save his beloved Jedi Order, he must forget that he used to fight alongside the 501st and get his hands dirty. Approaching the 501st Legion, he tore their strong armor open with his blade. Obi-Wan treated them as separatist droids, clankers. He demonstrated no humility and compassion as he sliced them down. One turned into 10 and then into 20. He would not let the dark side win. Anakin marches through the burning temple, his blue blade casting an eerie glow against the walls. The screams of the fallen had echoed in his ears, but he forces them into silence with his mind. He is focused, determined, and unwavering in his pursuit. The 501st sweeps through the halls, executing their orders with ruthless precision, but Anakin's thoughts are set on one target. Obi-Wan Kenobi is here. He recognizes the senses of his master anywhere. He steps into the council chambers, the air thick with smoke and death, and then he sees him. Obi-Wan Kenobi, standing alone in the center of the room, his blue blade ignited, waiting. Anakin's grip on his weapon tightens. Obi-Wan runs up to Anakin, not knowing that he has turned to the dark side. "Thank goodness you're here, Anakin. We need to help the younglings." Anakin didn't move. "Anakin, quickly, hurry, we don't have much time." Anakin remained frozen. "I'm right where I need to be, Master." This was always going to happen. "Anakin," Obi-Wan says, and for the first time, he sees his apprentice. His presence in the Force has shifted. Kenobi realizes that his apprentice is no more. "You don't have to do this, Anakin. It's not too late." Anakin scoffs, his jaw clenching as he stares at his former master. "It was too late the moment the Jedi turned on me. They never trusted me, Obi-Wan. Not truly. They lied to me, used me, manipulated me. But I see clearly now. The Jedi are weak. They are failures, and I will finish what must be done." Obi-Wan's fingers flex around the hilt of his saber, but he doesn't raise it. "You're right, the Jedi did fail, Anakin. All of us. But slaughtering them, slaughtering children, that isn't justice. That isn't strength. You know this isn't right." Anakin's face darkens, his eyes burning with something dangerous. "Don't lecture me, Obi-Wan. You don't understand. You never did. I am bringing peace to the galaxy. Real peace. You're either with me or you're against me." Obi-Wan exhales slowly, his heart aching. "Then I will do what must be done." For a moment, silence hangs between them, thick and suffocating. Then Anakin ignites his blade, the sapphire glow flashing as he lowers into a stance. Obi-Wan follows, his blue saber hissing to life. The tension is unbearable, the weight of years of brotherhood crashing down around them. No more words, only fate remains. Anakin strikes first, his attacks coming fast and merciless, each blow testing Obi-Wan's defenses. The older Jedi moves with precision, countering each strike, but Anakin's speed and aggression was overwhelming. Their blades clash in a blur, the hum of energy crackling throughout the Jedi Council chambers as they weave around the ruined space. Anakin fights with pure fury, his anger fueling every movement, his power undeniable. Obi-Wan is forced onto the defensive, assuming his Form 3 stance. The young Sith presses forward, his strikes wild yet controlled. "You could have joined me, Obi-Wan." Anakin snarls between his strikes, his voice thick with resentment. "We could have ruled together. Instead, you chose to stand in my way." Obi-Wan counters with sharp, precise blows, trying to find an opening, but Anakin is faster than he remembers, stronger than who he was before. He is no longer the learner, he is the predator, and Obi-Wan is running out of time. The fight rages on, but fatigue begins to creep into Obi-Wan's movements, his body worn from years of war, while Anakin's fury remains unyielding. Then, in one devastating stroke, Anakin's blade crashes down, shattering Obi-Wan's lightsaber in a shower of sparks. The ruined hilt clatters to the floor, and Obi-Wan stumbles back. "It's over, Obi-Wan. You've lost." Obi-Wan meets Anakin's gaze one last time, searching for even a flicker of the boy he once trained. "I tried, Anakin. I tried to save you. I never needed saving. But don't worry, Master. I will make you see the world how I do." With a wave of his hand, Anakin signals the 501st, and the clones move in without hesitation, their rifles raised as they close in around Obi-Wan. Kenobi is arrested and taken away, dragged through the burning halls of the Jedi Temple, past the bodies of his fallen comrades, past the ruins of what once was, in the heart of the Jedi Order. And all he can do is wonder, how did it come to this? How had Anakin, the boy he trained, the brother he loved, fallen so completely into darkness? It was done. The Jedi Order was no more. As for Padme, she never follows Anakin to Mustafar, as Obi-Wan doesn't tell her about Anakin turning to the dark side. This means that Anakin kills the Separatist leaders, shuts off the droids, and then returns to Coruscant, where Padme would quickly learn that he has turned to evil. This would drive her into a state of depression, but there wasn't much she could do. But what this also means is that when she goes into labor a few days later, she doesn't die. She has Anakin by her side, and although she hates what he has become, she doesn't die from a broken heart. All she wanted was Anakin's love, and his love is exactly what she had. Obi-Wan was thrown into a private prison created for him. He was broken from the moment he fell, but Anakin made sure there was nothing left to salvage. Day after day, Anakin came to him, standing just outside the reach of the flickering cell lights, his voice calm, relentless, and insidious. He didn't rage or scream, he simply spoke, peeling Obi-Wan's mind apart with the precision of a blade, forcing him to see the truth that he had spent years denying. The Jedi had failed him, failed all of them. They had taken him as a boy, stripped him of his identity, his emotions, his attachments. And for what? To serve a republic that crumbled the moment it was tested? To be cast aside the moment he was no longer useful? He made Obi-Wan relive Satine's death, made him see how the Jedi had done nothing, how their code had kept him from saving the woman he loved. He reminded him of Anakin himself, how the Jedi Council treated him like he was an outsider, how they made Obi-Wan their enforcer, their tool, ordering him to keep Anakin in line rather than ever allowing them to truly be brothers. And then there was the war, the endless battles, the bloodshed, the Jedi forced into the roles of generals for the Republic that had only ever seen them as weapons. How many had they sacrificed? How many clones had died under their command only for the Senate to treat them as disposable, to throw them into the fire again and again while the Jedi played at righteousness? Anakin didn't physically hurt him. The truth was all the damage he gave him. This happened on repeat for months on end, until finally he cracked. Obi-Wan Kenobi was dead, and in his place stood something else. Something sharpened by loss, fueled by vengeance, and forged in the fires of betrayal. Anakin releases Obi-Wan and makes him the Grand Inquisitor. What's important to note here is that Palpatine believes Obi-Wan has died, that Anakin killed him during the Purge. To keep this a secret, Obi-Wan wears a helmet as the Grand Inquisitor to keep his identity hidden. Vader and the Grand Inquisitor began traveling the galaxy, keeping their empire in order and hunting down any remaining Jedi. There was no hesitation in their strikes, no mercy in their blades. The Jedi were ghosts clinging to a past that no longer existed, and they would be the ones to finally snuff them out. The mask that Kenobi wore was more than a disguise. It was a severance, a declaration that Obi-Wan Kenobi had died on the night the temple fell. Palpatine never asked who lurked beneath the helmet, and neither Vader nor Obi-Wan offered an answer. It didn't matter. What mattered was the blood on their hands, the missions carried out without question, the sheer, unstoppable force of destruction they had become together. They fought side by side, their blades cutting through the last embers of the old order. Anakin had everything. His empire, his power, his legacy. His children grew up in the Force, molded by his training as they became powerful beings. And he had Padme, but where there had been once love, there was now only an uneasy truth. She had survived, and she had given him heirs, and she had remained by his side, but she had not followed him into the abyss the way Kenobi had. She stayed in the Senate, still clinging to the dying embers of rebellion, working in the shadows with Organa and Mothma, but they were powerless, their resistance little more than whispers in the void. Anakin knew it, and she knew it. The Empire had won, and there was nothing they could do. 5 years had passed, and the galaxy had become a shadow of its former self, completely suffocated by the dark side. Kenobi and Vader now stood as the ruthless enforcers of their empire. In the confines of Padme's apartment, she juggled her role as senator with the responsibilities of being a mother, always watching her children, Luke and Leia. Though Anakin remained by her side, the cracks in his facade deepened. He was no longer the boy she loved. He was Vader, and she could feel it in every gesture, every silent moment between them. Now fully consumed by the dark side, Obi-Wan stood ever watchful beside Anakin. They went and did everything together. As they all stood in Padme's apartment, Palpatine arrived. To Luke and Leia, he was their grandfather. Palpatine had always been charming, but very manipulative to them as they grew up. He was their prized possessions. Padme had lost them the moment he decided that they would be trained in the ways of the Sith. There was nothing she could do. She sat in tense silence, watching Anakin from across the room, knowing he could feel her hatred, knowing that for once they shared the same resentment. But there was no escaping it. Palpatine's gaze turned to her, sharp and knowing, and he let out a low chuckle. "Senator, do you have something you would like to say to me?" he asked, his voice laced with mockery. "Instead of glancing to Lord Vader for help. You are pathetic, but I will ensure your children do not follow in your weak footsteps." Anakin immediately stepped forward, his voice colder than before. "Do not speak to her that way." Palpatine's amusement flickered into something darker. He tilted his head slightly, and before anyone could react, he lifted his hand. The voice struck Padme like a hammer, slamming her into the wall. She hit the ground with a sharp gasp, pain shooting through her body. "No." Anakin's roar echoed through the apartment as he surged forward, but before he could reach her, Kenobi was already kneeling by her side. He placed a gloved hand over her cheek, fingers checking her pulse with an ease that was almost instinctual, movements precise and familiar. "She's alive," Kenobi said. Padme's breath caught, and as she glanced up, her gaze locked onto Obi-Wan. Something in her mind shifted, pieces clicking into place in an instant. She had seen that motion before, countless times during the Clone Wars. The way he checked the wounded, the way his fingers pressed just so, always calm, always careful. It made sense now, why Vader and the Grand Inquisitor were so close, why they always moved together with an unspoken understanding. She stared at him, barely able to form the words, but when she did, they came out as a breathless whisper. "Obi-Wan." Palpatine's gaze snapped to Padme, his expression shifting from curiosity to suspicion as the name left her lips. Slowly, he turned his eyes to the masked figure standing beside Vader, his mind racing. Then, a flicker of realization. No, it can't be Kenobi. He had never considered the Grand Inquisitor's identity, never thought Obi-Wan could have survived, let alone become Anakin's closest ally. The sheer impossibility of it is what made his stomach twist. Without hesitation, Obi-Wan reached up, unfastened his helmet, and let it fall to the floor with a dull clang. The room was silent as his face was revealed, aged, hardened, and filled with something unrecognizable. Palpatine's face twisted into fury, his lips curling. "What are you doing, Kenobi? Do you think you can challenge me?" His voice was sharp, but underneath it, a sliver of uncertainty. "I've never been your ally, Palpatine. I've been only waiting and playing the long game, and now the time has come for you to fall. Palpatine raised his fingers to send lightning at them, but before Obi-Wan could react, Vader stepped forward. He said nothing, but his movement spoke volumes. He was siding with Kenobi. Palpatine's eyes darted between his apprentice and the Jedi turned enforcer, his confidence faltering for the first time. He had never feared betrayal from Vader, but now, faced with these two men who had once been brothers, a rare emotion crept into his mind: doubt. Palpatine erupted in fury, his rage manifesting in torrents of Sith lightning that tore through the air, striking at Obi-Wan and Anakin. But they moved as one, their lightsabers igniting in perfect synchronization, intercepting the attack and pressing forward with relentless precision. Anakin fought with unrestrained power, his strength and fury driving Palpatine back, his every attack laced with the dark energy that had once been the Emperor's greatest weapon. The battle raged, the room crackling with raw power, the hum of lightsabers and the clash of energy filling the space as Palpatine struggled to hold on to his ground. He lashed out, but for the first time, he was not the master of this fight. He was on the defensive. He was losing. Anakin struck with brutal efficiency, Obi-Wan with ruthless calculation, and as Kenobi struck through Palpatine's defenses, the Grand Inquisitor severed Palpatine's saber hand. The Emperor stumbled back. He reached out, trying to escape, but Obi-Wan was faster, his movements deliberate, his intent absolute. In one swift motion, Vader drove his blade into Palpatine's chest, and the Sith Lord gasped before collapsing to the ground, dead. Anakin and Obi-Wan stood victorious. The galaxy now belonged to them. Padme's breath was uneasy as she looked between them, torn between awe and fear, the sheer power radiating from between them, unlike anything she had ever felt before. There was no undoing this, no turning back. The Republic, the Jedi, the old ways, all of it was gone. What now? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper, laced with something between dread and resignation. Anakin met her gaze, but in a cold, unwavering resolve of only a ruler. He says, "We rebuild, and the galaxy is ours to shape, and together we'll rule it." His words hung in the air, a chilling declaration of the future, and beside him, Obi-Wan's stare was even colder, his ambition no longer veiled. "We will be the ones to bring order to this broken galaxy. No one will stand in our way." And so, the reign of Anakin and Obi-Wan began, two warlords bound by power and purpose, their vision of order carved into the stars. Padme was trapped in their shadow, but remained at their side, her fate sealed, her every move watched. The children, still too young to understand the darkness they were being raised in, would grow to become heirs of the Empire, their destinies forged in the wake of the two men who had cast the galaxy into an eternal night. Hey guys, make sure to check out our saber shop, Fantasy Sabers, for the best NeoPixel sabers on the market. We have a bunch of perfect replicas and other insane Padawan sabers for sale. Check them out on our website, first link in the description below, and grab your own one today. Thank you all for watching today's video. Please check out our saber shop, Fantasy Sabers, where you can get your very own NeoPixel saber for an affordable price, and fulfill your childhood dreams of becoming a Jedi or a Sith. Also check out our membership program to be able to watch our videos early, and may the Force be with you.